I grew up in a household where drug dealers and drug addicts lived. My mom was a drug dealer. I had no aspiration for anything greater than myself, and even simple things were a lot for me to take on. Let me be a vessel of the infinite in a way that could best serve me in my relationship to the Creator.
Do you find the meaning of life that you were on the hunt for?
You can Xerox the Mona Lisa, but it ain't the Mona Lisa. Success is more about removing the things that get in the way to adding things to make you successful. I gotta keep that feeling as front and center as much as possible.
All right, Jason. So thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So you've been a rapper, a monk, and a marketer. When you reincarnate in the next life, can't be any of those three. Which will you be?
I will be a unicorn on the planet Uranus.
Okay. Seriously though, like if you had to come back in another life, and you couldn't be a marketer, what do you think your profession would be? I would probably be a sculptor. Like I would want to make the next statue of David. That's always been a huge inspiration of me, or make the next Mona Lisa. Yeah. It sounds. I've heard rumblings that you've been creating something called Mona Lisa. That is a subtle plug. Little subtle foreshadowing. Yeah. No, it's the joke comes because a lot of the marketing I've done has been very innovative in the last 19 years, and I've always. And this is a challenge in this business. The guy who creates the technology is usually too tired to push the technology. And I mean like not software. I mean like persuasive technology, communication technology, a new way of interacting with a market to create value. So this was me. I would always find these breakthroughs and then I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I tap out. And then the guy would come in, take my breakthrough and take it to the next level and then become famous for it and then get all the credit, right? And so my joke was like, you can Xerox the Mona Lisa, but it ain't the Mona Lisa. And so these guys are out here Xeroxing the Mona Lisa. I was kind of joking about it, but kind of serious, you know? And that's where that came from. But, you know, strategically, I'm more of a statue of David guy because I love this theory that success is more about removing the things that get in the way as opposing to adding things to make you successful. So you start with a marble slab and you don't add anything to it. You remove from it. And then you get one of the most beautiful pieces of art to ever exist. And that's how I look at business. Let's just remove the really stupid ways we can screw up. And then it's inevitable we become millionaires. Yeah, with that being said, how much of what your frameworks you operate by and you do business and marketing and offer creation is you distilling information from other places? Yeah. Or you're through self-discovery? Like, what do you think the split is? It's tough to distinguish between the two. So I'll tell you my process, right? I start with a mental model and then I adjust it to whatever situation that I'm playing. And usually the model will be from a different area and I'll bring it over here. Let me break it all down because it's kind of complicated, right? Think about it this way. You get a map and you look at the map, but it's not exactly representative of the territory. It can't be a one-to-one scale, right? So if I have a map and it doesn't show topographical information, everything looks like it's the same height, even though reality around us is there's mountains, there's hills, there's valleys, there's dips, and there's not. But you have to determine what you want to put on the map and what you want to take out. You follow so far, right? Yep. So you need a map that's most accurate to whatever you're trying to solve, meaning you don't want to put stuff in there that can get in your way, and you only want to have stuff in there that's important to you. And then you have to know how to read the map. So my philosophy is always, I want better maps and I want to read them better. So I'll give you a very simple map in marketing. There's the offer, there's the audience, and there's the message. I don't care what campaign you do. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what vehicle you use, be it webinar, be it Instagram story or podcast or anything in between, right? There's an offer, there's an audience, and there's a message. Those are the only three things you have to discover in order to be successful in business. That's your map. But how do you make the offer? How do you reach the audience? And what message do you say? That's how you have to figure out how to read that map in a way that's most effective. So then you drill down. You say, well, what components of an offer are the most important part? And I'll tell them to you, this is my map for an offer, right? It is what they get. It is the price they pay. It is the risk that they assume. And it is the scarcity involved in the offer. And those are the only four things that I've determined that you need in order to make an offer successful. So now it's up to you. Well, how do I position price most effectively? How do I remove risk most effectively? And so this is about having a good map and reading it correctly. So when most people sit down and make an offer, they don't even have a process.
So of course it's going to be difficult to make a good offer. But if we sit down with an offer and the first thing on our map is, how do we remove the risk involved with purchasing this? Which is where I always start. So not only do I have that on the map is risk is an important component of offer, and it's the most important. So I'm reading the map more effectively. How can I remove risk? Here's how I know most people don't understand offers, even supposed marketing experts, because they don't start with risk. I can sell 100% of an audience if there's only winning by buying, right? Let me give you an example, okay? I don't play the lottery. You play the lottery, Powerball, and that stuff?
When everyone's like, hey, it's just for fun, but
yeah.
But once every 3 years with, a client or something that's fun.
Yeah. So
do you?
No, I don't like playing.
Not even once every 3 years?
I cannot play a game in which I have the odds against me.
Could I buy you a couple tickets for the next one for fun?
You totally can.
Okay, done.
Because now you've removed the risk. The risk is now
That's
zero.
a good offer.
It's a good offer. You're getting it. Yeah, I like this.
And look, I'll even have them shipped to you in a golden box, but only if you agree to that right now.
Yeah, I agree to it right now, right? So you have removed the risk completely from me playing the lottery. So now I will do something I will never otherwise do. You've just made a killer offer. So these things will get to 100 million, 200 million, $500 million, the jackpots will be, right? And most people will still not buy a ticket because the risk of losing is so much more than the gain, right? They have to offset that by selling it for $1. Okay. Now, scenario B, what if the lottery had a 51% chance of winning, but you would only win 1 penny each time you had a lottery?
Yeah, no one's going to buy, right?
I would buy every day though.
You would buy because the odds are in your favor.
Because I can't lose. I can only win. I don't win much, but I win. And I just have to build a machine now that buys lottery tickets for me. So we have removed 99.9% of the upside, but we've removed all of the downside. So we can make offers that promise less, that give less, and sell more, because we don't start with the gain first. We start with the risk, and we try to remove as much of that as humanly possible. And then, like our statue of David, what's left, we now make it look as beautiful as we can. Then we focus on the deliverables and all the other stuff. But by solving for risk in our map, we make some of the best offers that have ever existed in this industry, and we break records, some of which still stand to this day.
Yeah, that's so just to distill that a little bit. So what you're saying is what I heard from you right now is that objection, the biggest number one objection is risk.
Yeah.
And so in order to get someone to buy your product, whether it's a digital product or it's something a local business is selling as a plumber,
yep.
Right? It'd be important to think like, okay, how do we make the customer think that there's zero risk in buying this?
100%. Or let's remove the biggest risk that would stop them from buying. Everybody says, how do we get them to buy? I say, how do we stop them from not buying? And I know that sounds like semantical twist, but it's not, because if I think from that perspective, I solve the equation differently than everybody else who's thinking, what do we need to do to get them in order to buy? I'm like, how do we just stop them from not buying? Well, we have to remove risk. And that's one of the ways. We have to make it easy for them to understand. So I can have the best solution possible, but if it requires like 6 decoder rings and it requires Jupiter being in the third moon of Saturn, then you're like, forget it, bro. I'll just remain miserable than try to figure out your awesome offer. But if I have something that is just slightly good, but you can understand it immediately and see the impact, then I win. And so we try to remove the complexity in which somebody can appreciate the value. And the more we can do that, the better we can sell the product too.
So some examples of that could be the like money back guarantee, result-based guarantty, action-based. There's different frameworks.
Yeah, 100%. And so some of the biggest offers we've ever done have had better than money back guarantees.
Sounds like you named it for a reason.
Yeah, like we had this one called the guarantee of success.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's doing to the person's mind as they're hearing.
Yeah, there was the other one called the profit guarantee, right? And both of these have been multi-million-dollar offers. And they're conditional, and I'm very clear about that. If I say, listen, if you do A, B, and C, and you don't get this result, then I will pay you just for the effort. Now, you have to do something. But if you do the things that you should be doing anyway, and then the only reason you wouldn't fail is bad luck, let me finance your bad luck. I'll take that on for you. I just want you to have the attempt, because if you don't attempt it, it's guaranteed failure. So we run it like an actuary table. We run it like an insurance company does, right? How do we make an offer where if you just do what you're supposed to do, you can't fail? And as long as I can do that mathematically to where I won't lose money, then I can make that offer. But people don't solve for that. So of course they'll never come up with that eloquent solution if they don't even think it's possible. So we're solving for risk. And one of the ways that we do that is with money. But money is the least important risk of all at the end of the day, actually speaking. Time is a bigger risk. What if I put all this time into it and I don't see a result with it? I can't recover time. So we have to minimize time risk. And then the most important risk is not even time. It's the emotion around it. What if I try this and look like an idiot? What if I try this and come up short and then I feel like a loser? What if I try this and I'm harmed in the process? And we have to deal with that risk too. So that's where we start. We start with risk. Yeah.
Okay. And so one thing that you mentioned a couple of times, you didn't actually mention it, but you mentioned it in more subtle ways, which is the statistics.
Yeah.
It seems like you analyze the likelihood of something prior to going into it in a much different way than most people would.
Yeah. Great point. So the first level of that is we make a hypothesis and we try to account for probabilities. So we say, we think the distribution will be this way. We think our exposure could be this way. We think that this will be the most cost-effective way to us to deliver this and have the biggest impact. So we hypothesize, but we don't assume we're right because we're usually not, right? So we run a small-scale test. So even if we're completely wrong, we lose the least amount of resources. And no matter what, the customer is okay as a result. That's what we try to solve for, okay? So we validate our hypothesis, and then once we have the numbers, then we say, okay, now we have some foundation in reality. How do we scale this as much as we possibly can? I'll give you a couple examples of this, okay? One of the examples is when people are very scared of doing a better than money back guarantee. I say, well, if you did this for just 10 customers and you had to pay the fullest extent for your money back guarantee better than that on every 10, could you do it? Yeah. Okay, so let's try it. And then let's actually see. And what you find is never is it really the finances that stop somebody from a better than money back guarantee. It's the psychological possibility that everybody it's the boogeyman under the bed, right? So once I can get rid of that, then they're like, okay, let's try it for more people. And what we find is we can push the limits of what we will do for our customers far further than what people think. Yeah. But because people don't have a map with that better than money back guarantee, they don't even go into that territory. Crazy, right?
Yes, it is crazy. And the fear of it too is these actions. A lot of people try to create these impossible guarantees, which also is, I don't think you're allowed to do that. But here's the thing, is what you just said. And just so everyone's very clear, it's like, if I'm a local business, a plumber, or if I'm a digital marketer or whatever it is, hey, what's success look like for when you're selling something? You want that client to be successful.
Yep.
So what is it actually going to take them to be successful?
Yep.
Put that down, make them do it. 9 of the 10 people that actually do that will have success. The one that doesn't, what you're saying, you can afford based on the increase in sales to refund that person.
So here's the mass market psychological application to this that you only learn after doing it thousands of times like I have, right? So everybody listening, right? You are getting an education that you don't have to pay for, that I pay for in blood, sweat, and tears. And it goes like this, right? If you're selling somebody a product, you have the greatest product in the world, best solution ever, and a majority of the people are not going to get the result from that product that they should get from that product, okay? And that's not a bad thing. That's just the way that the reality works. The way the reality works is it's generally not one thing that changes everything. We pretend it is, right? It's a little bit from course A, a little bit from course B, a little bit from course C. A little bit of it is psychological, a little bit of it is sociological. So that person today won't be successful with your course, but then when his wife leaves him in 6 months because he's a loser, all of a sudden he can do miracles he couldn't do before, right? So your circumstances could change, your set can change, your mindset, and your setting can change, your environment. So there's our factors outside of your control. So we know in dealing with the masses, a majority of people, when you give them gold, they will find a way to turn it into copper. It's just the way that it is. So the crowd can finance the success of the few who are ready to succeed. So we democratize the risk across everybody to reward the few people who are ready to win right now. And this is wonderful because we give value to those in a higher degree than otherwise they would get. We increase the chances of more of them becoming successful by stacking the odds in their favor. And if you don't meet success in the criteria we defined, because there's a time limit based upon these better than money back guarantees, you're still more likely over time to be successful because I am giving you a new reason to act that you normally don't have, like a new extra incentive to be successful. So there is zero downside other than I will have to pay for some people, but I would rather pay out of my pocket to people than pay Google or Facebook to spend more money on customer acquisition.
Sure.
It's a better expense. I will spend less money and I'll have a bigger impact than giving $1 billion corporation some more money.
So the framework you mentioned for the offer is you're doing product, price, scarcity, risk reversal.
Yep.
Risk reversal or scarcity? Which one first?
Depends.
Okay.
Yeah. And generally you can't separate the two, right? They're all kind of intertwined and mixed together. Because like a big part of risk would be the risk of committing my time to this thing versus something else. That's a risk. Scarcity then is putting the urgency to make that decision to commit now versus committing to something else, right? So they're somewhat intertwined, but generally speaking, we introduce scarcity early, we address risk, and then we come back to scarcity because we have to let them know that here's the frame around in which the decision needs to be made. So you know the stakes involved. And now let's talk about the risk given the fact that there's urgency attached to this. Yeah.
It seems like the important thing a lot of people do is like, here's our guarantee. Sure, better than money back guarantee. But what you're actually identifying is there's deeper unconscious things. Yeah. So yeah, say money back guarantee, but you need to handle the other stuff.
We got like a little into the weeds on the money back guarantee, the better than money back guarantee, which I only see maybe 1 out of 1 million offers. Most people never do it. But the real risk isn't even in the guarantee. The real risk is in a person hates making a wrong decision. Like they really do. And so the fear of making a wrong decision stops them from making any decision. And that's what sticks people. Okay. And we do not serve our audiences if we allow them to take that behavior. And so a majority of what I do with these campaigns is sit with somebody and help them assess risk. I don't force them to say yes or no. I just help them look at the situation and determine if it's riskier to say no or riskier to say yes. And what most people will find out is the actual cost of saying no over time is far greater than the cost of saying yes immediately. And this is how we help more people make a better purchasing decision, but we sit with them and help them understand the risk involved.
So you're arguably the most prolific marketer on the planet right now. You're the guru's guru.
Yeah.
And I don't think people truly identify that. And when you hear even frameworks you're talking about, you've mastered frameworks, you understand things at a deeper level than I think most marketers do.
Yeah.
When someone like Alex Hormozi comes to you and says, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the before and after product of something looks like and how you shape things to what it ultimately became.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the story on that is I'm at Pirates Cove, which is in Las Vegas, somewhere on the outskirts here. Russell Brunson holds a mastermind, invites us all, says, chip in $10,000 and we can have this like private area. It's really cool. So I'm there. Alex and Layla are there. Alex has just started turning the corner and Jim Launch started cooking, right? And I don't know what possessed me, but I walked up to him because I could tell this is a guy who worked really hard for a long time to finally start seeing some big wins. I could just sense it.
And you were aware of who he was at the time? Or you
No, nobody knew who he was at the time. Yeah, he was arguably, he's arguably one of the, it was before COVID. So it was before 2021 even. Yeah. He was arguably one of the least successful people in the room at the time. Yeah. Ironic, isn't it? Now he makes more than all of us combined, but whatever, right? It shows you how powerful the right idea with the right person and how far it can go. So I walked up to him. I said, when things are easy, that's when you go hard. And because the tendency of when you start to get momentum after grinding is to ease up off the gas pedal because you can work 1/10 as much and you can make 10 times more money than you've ever made in your life. But really what you want to do is you want to double down on momentum because it doesn't rain money forever. Every market dries up. Every opportunity loses value over time. So you want to work the hardest when the money comes in the easiest. It's very counterintuitive, but I went through 2 launch cycles where we did that. We did a launch in 2015 as an affiliate. So we were promoting a product and 1,000 other hardcore great marketers were promoting the same product. We were the number 1 affiliate in that contest with $9.8 million. Number 2 did less than $2 million. It was raining money. They phoned it in and made $2 million. We went hard and we made $10 million, right? And they would say, Jason, I wouldn't want to work that hard for that money. And I say, listen, I work for 2 weeks. I could take the other 50 weeks off. You work all year. You tell me who's working harder. But nonetheless, I've been through these cycles, okay? So I said that to Alex. Alex went out and he texted me. It was so funny. I have the text message. He says, you may not remember me, but you changed my life. When you said it, when it's easy, go hard. We did this in our business. It grew to this. I found your webinar course. I bought it. Greatest offer in persuasion course I've ever bought. Something along those lines, right? So I'm on his radar. In the book, $100 million offers, I'm the most quoted person in there. So I've had that impact on him. So when he decides to launch $100 million leads, he calls me up and he wants to do some consulting. So I said, fantastic. And so we sat down and we had this conversation. The first thing I asked him, because $100 million leads, he was thinking of doing like something to what he did for $100 million money models. We have these packages, 6,000 a package or 2,000 a package. I can't remember the numbers. So I said, the first thing I asked him is why? Like, why are you deciding now to do a launch like this? Because up until then, he'd given everything away for free. I go, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just curious why. And we analyzed the risk. That's the first thing we did. What's the downside of it? There is some downside. Is it acceptable downside? And so we went back and forth on that for a while. He determined, I do whatever the client wants at the end of the day. I just help guide them through the choices. And he determined that he's going to do the launch. So we spent 6 hours just talking about packaging and positioning the offer and all this and all that. And then about a couple of days before the launch, he texted me, says, oh, by the way, we're just going to give the book away for free again. We're going to do none of that. And I said, remember the first thing I asked you? And he goes, it haunts me to this day. Something along those lines. It went like that. So they go and they do the book launch and do well, obviously. It was like 45-minute webinar and crushed it. So then on this next launch, $100 million money models, he came, I didn't do that much consulting for this launch. I did a little bit, and he came to me and he was like, don't worry, I'm going to go really long this time. So the last launch was 45 minutes. This launch, he did 3 days and they were very long streams. And one of the reasons for that, and I teach this everywhere, is the risk of going longer with your clients is nothing. You spend a little bit more of your time serving your clients, and the worst thing that happens is they're appreciative that you hung out with them. The upside is more sales, but there is no downside. This is the best example I could possibly give of a risk-free scenario. I love it. I love sitting with clients and closing all day long because I've learned how to sell in a way that's valuable, whether they buy or they don't buy. And so why wouldn't we want to spend more time with our best customers? And they risk nothing. If they say no, they still have a positive experience. And so this is an example of the contribution taken to the fullest extent of where Alex would show up with that long form pitch on an event like that. And of course, you can see the webinar model. Read my book, One to Many, compare it to that launch, and then determine how much of it's similar and how much of it isn't.
The frameworks he followed are, if you put it side by side and watch it, you can see, oh, he's doing this here, doing this. And look, whether, like, to your point earlier, you find the map, but then you can also expand the map.
Yeah.
And it seems like in this industry, your map has been a center point around a lot of principles in personal development, Think and Grow Rich, all these books you can find in the Bible.
Yeah, true.
Right? So, ultimately, what does that mean, right? It means that there's sources of truth, and I think your stuff has become a source of truth in the industry.
That's a great way to put it. And, I've stayed in the conversion side. Like, I don't do the lead gen side. So, like, you look at Alex's launch, they bought ads better than anybody had ever seen. I have no idea how to do any of that stuff, right? They were able to do things at a level on every front of excellence. And generally, that's impossible. It's hard to be a 10 out of 10 in one thing. Try being a 10 out of 10 in 2 different things and connecting them together. That's super hard. And then doing a 10 out of 10 across the board, that's almost impossible. That's how you break records, though. So, just kudos where they are. But I've stayed on the conversion side. I'm really valuable when you get somebody who's ready to buy, to get the most of them to buy who should buy. Because a lot more people are buying. Anybody listening right now, the people who should buy it and the people who actually buy it, it's very small compared to what it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard you say that there's 10% that will buy, no matter what, 10% that won't buy. And through proper conversion, you can look at that 80%.
Yeah.
What's the highest converting webinar percentage-wise that you found?
So I don't know percent, but the best webinar we ever did pound for pound, we did a webinar that did $3.29 million in 60-ish minutes, 60 to 75 minutes. And it was selling a $10,000 software. Now, here's all the caveats around this. This is why this is my favorite webinar and almost nobody's ever seen it. The total amount of people who were invited to that webinar was 587 people. So to get an invitation to this webinar, you had to have bought a $3,500 product from me in the front end and had been part of my $297 a month continuity program that I have with a business partner. And then we made you sign a non-disclosure agreement to even attend the webinar. Okay. And then on the webinar, it basically went like this. I said, we have the software that just smashes it when it comes to launching products on Amazon and ranking products on Amazon. I'm like, it's so damn good. And this is not marketing. The best marketing is you take the truth and you best communicate what's fundamentally true. And this is true. I'm like, I can't put this in the hands of thousands of people because I don't know the impact that this is going to have on Amazon's algorithm. I don't know. It's that powerful. So we are going to test it to 300 people and no more than 300 people right now until we can see the actual long-term impact. Does it affect things? Doesn't it affect things? So I only marketed it to businesses that made sense to spend $10,000 with. And I only allowed them to see this webinar and I communicated only and specifically to their needs. And this is how I produced $3.29 million in one single webinar, not a campaign. A webinar. Start the webinar with $0. By the time I hit end webinar, 3.29 in billables. And that's my favorite webinar of all time because that's like the cleanest webinar I can point to. And it's something nobody ever does. Everybody always wants to go cold, front market, sell to the masses, and do that kind of webinar. And I teach that webinar, and I teach it really well. And we've done very well with that. But my favorite webinars are to existing customers where you will never even know they exist unless you're this type of customer, because then I can customize solutions specifically to your needs, and nobody else will do that.
You toss these numbers around, millions of dollars, and I've heard you previously, almost like it's candy. But I don't know if you even truly accept how amazing it is. Like, it's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. It's, man, once you hang around enough successful people, then millions become the standard. But it should always be appreciated. It should be like a hot shower. Like, a hot shower is a miracle. I can conjure up with one twist of a knob hot water. Like, this is a miracle. But we take it for granted until we live in a situation where there's no hot water. So yes, thank you for bringing consciousness to that.
You have phenomenal talk tracks or cold reads that you've just integrated into your daily life. Even this, you're comparing how easy it is to get results on a webinar to turning on a faucet, which I don't know if are you aware when you're doing this?
Not anymore. Yeah. Well, at one point in time, this was all conscious. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there's definitely some deeper level communication strategies that are going on, but you get to a point where you start channeling. You can just be in the moment and the insights come to you from something greater. But you can't be open to that until you do the work and put the conscious effort in to understand and recognize and appreciate it.
You drew to this channel concept. I don't know if you're joking or serious, but you spent 4 years as a monk.
Yep.
And you're here now, you're not operating as a monk in day-to-day life, right? So did you find the meaning of life that you were on the hunt for? And what is that?
Yeah, I found what I needed at that time. So I was living a life that was very small in scope. And what that means is I had no aspiration for anything greater than myself. And even simple things were a lot for me to take on. I had a very tough childhood. My mom was a drug dealer. She went to prison for 6 years. I grew up in an environment that was absolutely chaotic. So it was very difficult. And my world was very chaotic internally because my external world was chaotic. So I always wanted to be a musician. I always wanted to be a rapper. I was out there trying to do that, but I was never serious about it because my life was very small. I was just trying to survive. So when I got involved with a religion and when I became a monk, all of a sudden it switched on a world and a source that I could tap into that was greater than me. And also the meditation that went involved to balance out all these infrequencies that were totally at odds with each other inside of me. It gave me a new look at life. And then I was able to say, okay, let me do something that can truly represent who I am as somebody who comes from God. right? Let me be a vessel of the infinite in a way that could best serve me in my relationship to the creator. And that switched me on. I started playing in a whole new world, and then the world became much bigger. And so that allowed me to channel and focus more into concepts that before were impossible for me. And then, of course, you still got to do the work. And so then you do the work, and then the work becomes pretty second nature to you after doing it very consciously for a long time. And it becomes a mental model, like we talk about a map, you don't even have to look at. You can just live the map. And then once you have one map, you can connect it to another map and another map. And so this is how this eventually gets. And you do it for 20 years.
A lot of people miss that connection. So sure, you can have your belief in Western spirituality, hippie culture calls it law of attraction, but there's this thing you called, which is being a vessel for the creator.
Yep.
But then we're living in a 3D world right now. You have to do the work. You have to get up in the morning. You have to go talk to people. You have to create relationships. You have to do this stuff.
100%.
Also, people don't realize you can be a monk in America. There's temples, right? You can go do this. You don't have to go off to, I see you to do it.
I never did. Yeah. I was a monk in a apartment building in Muscatine, Iowa. Right. Yeah.
And you were practicing that for the whole time. Was it a temple or was it?
No, it was the apartment I share with my dad.
Okay. So are you being serious?
I'm dead serious.
So yeah. So you made the decision, I'm going to be a monk, and you started studying. Is that what that was for you?
Yeah, it was. I started reading the Bhagavad Gita and I started meditating, praying. It's a mantra. Started chanting the mantra 5 minutes a day, then 10 minutes a day. To do it properly, like 2 hours a day is what it takes. So within 30 days, I went from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 minutes to about 2 hours of chant meditation. I cleaned up my diet completely. So I started eating whole foods that were cooked by somebody in the mode of goodness. And since nobody I knew was in the mode of goodness, I started cooking all my own foods from scratch, and I only ate things that were cooked from scratch. So I changed my whole diet, changed my meditation, started reading the Bhagavad Gita like an hour or two every single day. And then if I wasn't doing those things, I was focused completely on my music, trying to make my music do something good enough to then reach millions of people. And that was my whole life for essentially 4 years. It was beautiful. Yeah. I failed miserably. I'm no longer a monk, and my music never went anywhere. And it was also the most beautiful time of my life.
Our modern society, modern life as we have it can be very stressful.
Yeah.
And I live like at a high level of stress. Like my whoop band's like, hey, you're stressed. I'm like, yeah, I'm always.
Yeah.
And I understand you also have you have situations in your life where you're dealing with like you've been very publicly open about like panic attacks and stuff like this.
Yep.
As stress levels get up, like how are you? What are you actually doing to manage that? And also like manage your loved ones too, because they don't deserve to get wrapped up in that.
That's 100%. And I'm not the best example of this right now because I am taking on stress in exchange for growth. So it's an exchange I'm making knowing that it's harmful to me, but I feel like I need to make it now anyway, right? I may be wrong. So ideally, I wouldn't be pushing as hard as I'm pushing right now. Ideally, like we're doing 4 podcasts today, right? Like I just added another one. We changed the plane. Now we're flying back. It's chaos. Okay. I'll do you one for this. This is the stupidest thing ever. Last night in my quiet little Brentwood community that I live in Los Angeles, which is super duper posh. Like this is how my daughter understands where we live. She goes, LeBron James lives in the same zip code that we live in, Dad. I'm like, of course he does, right? This is our reality now. So the neighbors decide to have a Tuesday night party in Brentwood. This never happens. And I had to get up at 4:00 today to catch the flight to get out there to hit all these podcasts and everything. And then a new one jumped in and I said, okay, go for it. So this is stressful. This is not good for me right now. That's just the way that it is. But I'm exchanging stress for growth. I'm also hopefully smart enough to know that I can't do that forever. And so I am making changes right now because I think the opportunities are so good based on AI and based on what we're doing on social that it's an acceptable exchange, even though there's a cost involved in it. But long term is if I can pray, prayer is the most important thing I think that anybody should do to help them balance their life. And it doesn't have to be to God. It doesn't have to be to a specific type of religion. but it should be a prayer to something that you can connect to bigger than yourself, and be open to the idea that you are this small in a universe that's this big, which is this small in the totality of all universes that ever exist. And then you should just be grateful for any opportunity that you can have to express yourself. And you got to stay in that gratitude. Otherwise, it will kill you, right? Also, you have to accept that sometimes what is stressful to you and how you interpret it can change how it affects you. So we don't avoid stress, but we try to find a better meaning for stress. And then that tends to change the physiology of your body and the actual biological and chemical components of your body. They study this in science. They can tell one group, they can give it a milkshake and say, this is a super healthy milkshake for you. Go ahead and sip it down. They give another one and say, this is a milkshake. And then they measure like glucose levels, blood sugar spikes, all this. And to some extent, it's not a miracle, but there's definitely a difference in, they call this the expectation effect. So if I expect that I can handle stress in a way that will make me better, and I manage the limits of the physical reality so I don't break down, then stress takes on a new meaning. And so this is how I can get through the stress right now. But I also realize that it's sprints. It's not marathons. I can't run a marathon at a sprint. So I have to be very strategic on how I handle my stress. And my body will tell me when it's too much, but I'm really good at not listening to it. So I have to get better at listening to it. Yeah.
The meaning that we tie to anything, an association, is really the key, right? And I love what you said. You're now focused. Okay, cool. I'm stressed. I got like lots going on. You were up. You barely got sleep last night. You're up early. You're doing all these things, but you're in a period of recreation, and you're going all in. And it sounds like you're committed to it.
I think with social media right now, the greatest opportunity ever to grow a business exists, especially when you combine it with AI. And so if there ever was a time for me to really dial in and get an outsized return on my effort, it's right now. And so I'm so in love with this idea of how can I show up on social like I've shown up in these other campaigns? Because now I can reach 1 billion people when before it was hard to reach 100,000 people. But the game of social is a little bit different, or a lot different, than the businesses that we built in the past. The signals are different, the time horizons are different, the competition is different, and solving for what we want to do on social has new equations, new maps that we need to build that we don't have right now.
What is it leading to? So, and we were talking a bit before we started recording here, you're crushing on social.
Thank you.
And it's cool to see, and it's content. I'm your ICP. I find it super valuable.
Nice.
Right? Like this is awesome content, right? So yeah, I just want to recognize that. But what's it leading to, right? Like, I got nothing to sell you was Alex's thing. I'm sure you got something to sell.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I don't know what it is yet. So unlike most marketers, I don't work from this thing of I am going to figure out what the market needs. I'm going to create it and sell it to them, right? I say, when I'm ready, the market will reveal to me what it needs, and I have to be open to receive it. And so I don't know what it will be yet, but I know that if I make enough moves to serve the market, it will reveal its secrets to me. And then I know what to do with those secrets once they're revealed, but it hasn't revealed its secrets to me yet. And I'm patient enough to wait for that to occur. Because if it occurs in the next 5 years, I will do a bigger launch than anybody in history has ever done in our space. I've done this before. I've done 3 cycles of this before, right? But I can't force it on my time. It will do it on its time. And so this is where I'm at right now. But the higher level is of service. There's nothing that excites me more than being able to connect with an audience and helping remove a big limitation in their life to empower that audience. And that is like my favorite thing in the world. So social allows me now to be able to do it at scale to 1 billion people. Whereas in the past, I would do it for 1,000 souls. Now I can do it for potentially 1 million souls or 1 billion souls. And so that's really what switches me on. I know that if I take care of that, the launches will be a byproduct. Yeah.
I have some questions on social. Before we do, I just want to talk about that you said the opportunity revealing itself to you.
Yeah.
Which in 2007, you were selling ebooks, and this is my understanding is it transitioned to, I was in 7th grade, so it's a different time.
I was in 2007, you were in 7th grade.
But $17 ebooks, oh, I can sell this for a bit more money on a webinar, $97 webinar. Oh, I can sell something for $500 on a webinar. That was an opportunity revealing itself to you.
Yep.
When it comes to webinars and that it unfolding to that, you now have talked on for a long time, a 14-step framework.
Yep.
Right. If we were to take that away, because I think it can confuse some people.
Totally. It's a very elaborate map.
Which is great when you want to go crazy.
I know how to read that map, but it's too much detail for most people. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting point.
And that's the simplest version of the map that I can make and still be authentic to that map. Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
What is it that makes you make that comment?
So there are some people out there that will say the webinar is just 3 secrets. You follow it and that's it. Right. Russell Brunson teaches the three secrets webinar framework.
Perfect webinar framework.
Perfect webinar, right?
3 steps.
Heavily inspired by somebody before him. I don't know who that is. That was me. I'm kidding. But there's value in that map because people can understand it very easily. And that's great because then you can take action upon what you understand. And for some people, that's enough for them to be successful with a webinar. The thing about it, though, is if you oversimplify the map, then more people can get lost when they go through the map. And so I find it too reductive to extract the most amount of value out of webinars. So I have a more complicated map that requires more understanding to utilize it, but it has proven itself to be more effective when applied properly. So I never want to sacrifice the utility for the ease of selling the thing. So it is what it is. So here's a saying that I was famous for once upon a time, and now somebody else probably gets credit for. I said, I don't set my prices by your wallet. Like, this thing is $3,000. You may not have $3,000 to buy it. The market may not even be able to afford it, but this thing is $3,000. It's $100,000 of value, and the least cost I can make it is $3,000. And if the market can't afford it, that's the market's problem. I am not going to sacrifice the quality of the best solution possible simply because you can't afford it. That doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve you. And so I'm not going to sacrifice the efficaciousness of my model simply so I can sell more of it. I'm just not going to do that. So my E equals MC square, the simplest I can make a webinar is 14 steps.
That's something you discovered or channeled the creation of, or were you taking inspiration from other people prior to you?
Very little inspiration from anybody in market. So my favorite thing to do is take maps from other fields and play with those maps in my field. So I heavily drew upon NLP. NLP I got into to try to fix my own broken brain because like I was having these panic attacks, having this anxiety, having all these issues, PTSD I was later diagnosed with, all that kind of stuff. So NLP was a therapeutic process that helped people change very quickly from limited states to more empowering states. So I tried it. It didn't work for me personally, but I discovered some really powerful communication strategies. So I started building models based upon NLP, but applying them in webinars. So I learned it from that. And I learned some of it from platform sellers. Back in the day, people would do these seminars and they would sell from stage. So I drew some of that from there, but not a lot of it from there. But I'll tell you, and again, I took my own maps and adjusted them. So I was selling those $4 ebooks, right? And the model there was one problem, one solution, one sitting. That is a simple map. That was the most elaborate map I could create at the time. So find one problem, solve it in one way, and only solve problems where you could create an information product in one sitting, generally 2 to 3 hours. So if I can't make the product in 2 hours, I don't make the product in 2 hours. Great map when you're starting out. So I learned to effectively communicate a strategy in its most essential components. I could take somebody who couldn't do a thing and in 2 hours make them get a result that they wish for years to have gotten. Now I had to slim down the kinds of results I was getting. I had to solve problems that were smaller in scope, but nonetheless problems that prevented people from being successful. I got really good at that in the $4, $7, then $17 ebook format. So when it became time to do a webinar, the content portion of my webinar was just a slight adjustment of that map to teach on a webinar. So instead of selling it to you in $7 in an ebook format, I communicated it to you for free in a webinar format. And that takes a big chunk of the webinar up. So I learned that. Here's the other cool thing that I discovered. And this, I don't know where this came from. If there's anybody that influenced me directly from it, it's hard to give credit to. But I was always very uncomfortable with the idea of a webinar being kind of a bait and switch. It still is to this day, right? come here for free. Out of the goodness of my heart, I'm just going to share with you this immense knowledge because I'm such a saint. Psych, like I was so uncomfortable.
Did you ever run one of those like that? Like pitch in the normal pitch process, not up front?
Later on, I came to grips when that can make sense.
But before, like, you always pitch first?
So here's what I decided. How can I feel comfortable doing this? So I get on with the webinar, and now a lot of people do this. I was the first, okay? And I would say, listen, on this webinar, I have 2 agendas today. My first agenda is to sell you something. At the end of this webinar, if you're the right fit and it's more expensive for you to not buy than to buy, then I'm going to make you an offer and I expect you to purchase it. I said, my second agenda, though, is to, for free, give you the best ever insight you've had in your entire life when it comes to insert topic here, right? However, if I can't give you that insight for free, never, I repeat, never buy anything from me. But if some miracle of miracles, I'm able to actually deliver on this promise of what I'm going to give for you for free, then you should absolutely buy what I'm selling you at the end of this webinar. Do we have a deal? Okay. Now, I wasn't that eloquent with it at first, but it's basically like, listen, I have 2 goals here today. One is to give you this thing for free, and one of them is to sell you this product. However, before I sell you this product, I'm going to give you this thing for free. And then, and only if I give you this thing for free, then at least consider my offer, right? That's how I first sold on webinars. So I solved the problem of I'm uncomfortable selling in the normal way people sell. How do I sell in a way that's effective, but also comfortable for me? So that became really easy. And that's how I really built the webinar. I was very lucky to be in an industry that nobody had a rule book already designed for. So I was able to write the rules. The downside of that is it's very chaotic, but I grew up in a household where drug dealers and drug addicts live. So this is less chaotic than that. So it's a chaos I could understand. Yeah.
I've done hundreds of webinars in the last 7 years.
Nice.
And I asked if you'd ever done it pitch later because I discovered very early on that if you don't pitch up front, when you get to the pitch, that's when the comments start testing you.
Totally. Yeah.
And so then I discovered this guy who talked about pitching up front, and he's like, do the pitch up front, which, by the way, you just gave the exact frame that you use on it.
Yeah.
And the eloquent version, everyone's still going to use the non-eloquent version.
Yeah.
Everyone misses the real power in this.
True.
Well, something I'm hearing from you is interesting, which is like you created so much in this space.
Yeah.
Is there an element of frustration that people rip your ideas and don't credit you?
Less that, more frustration towards it limits the impact that the material that I worked so hard to create could have. Because again, you Xerox the Mona Lisa, it loses its qualities, right? And so the personal credit is not the source of frustration, more so the credit of this impact could be much greater if it's properly applied.
You're taking a healthy smoothie and you're putting some chemicals in it.
Yeah.
You're serving it to people.
Yeah. Or even if you're trying to make the smoothie, you don't know how to make the smoothie just the right, precise way. And so you're not as good of a smoothie maker. So yeah, there's some frustration involved in that, but this is why we're pushing on social these days. So we're going to fix it. Yeah. It took me 20 years to figure it out, but I'm like, okay, now there's an opportunity.
If you had to explain, to your kid wants to start a business.
Yeah.
Or one of your 3?
I have 3 kids and one of them already has a business.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
What industry is it?
Dog treat business.
Okay, cool. They want a dog treats they sell online?
No.
Okay.
It's so funny because my youngest, she's 12 years old. She has a dog treat business, doing pretty well with it. She's made a couple $1,000s net profit so far in the last couple of months. Like better than 95% of make money online courses ever do.
Sure, she has some good coaching in her
She
course.
definitely has a good coach, right? And she's just a go-getter. But yeah, she sells dog treats in person. And I tell her immediately, I said, you want to master sales before you do anything else, because it's the quickest way in order to develop business competency with the least amount of risk. So right now it's direct sales. Whenever she walks the dog, she takes dog treats with her. If she finds a cold lead on the street, she starts pitching them. We set up stands on corners, and when people walk by with the dog or without a dog, she tries to sell them. And now the biggest breakthrough we've had is in Brentwood. They have a farmer's market every Sunday, and we've set up her stand across the street from the farmer's market, and then she goes in there and she sells dog treats. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
If you had to tell her, so like what you're doing with her, it's an offer, an audience, and what's the third thing? Message,
right? Yeah.
And so you help she has an offer, so that's cool to see.
Yeah.
Now, if she wants to amplify it through the power of one-to-many selling.
Yeah.
What she's doing, but on a webinar framework.
Yeah.
And she's 12, as you said. What's the MVP version you tell her to put together so she could present it on a webinar?
Yeah, this is a great thing. So first of all, I wouldn't use a webinar in this instance. So this goes to, just because it's a tool doesn't mean it's the right tool for the job, right? Because she's dealing in her product is $15 a package. And great margins, but there's not enough margins to justify what you'll lose from registration to show rate to pitch rate to buy rate. It's not the most effective. I would consider her doing a webinar if she was raising money to have people help her distribute the product at that point in time. But it's really funny because I put this idea of distribution in her mind. Like if she could get on the shelves of Erewhon in LA, she could move some units if she could get into other strategic locations. But then I say, you're not ready for distribution yet. You need to continue to sell more. So for her in that particular business, I said this to her the other day. I said, if you could have 5 girls in your class go out to 5 farmers markets and sell for you, how much money would you give them as a percent? She was like, I go, would you give them 50%? She goes, no, I'd only give them 5%. I'm like, would you rather have 50% of a lot of money? Or would you rather have 95% of a little money? And she's like, oh, I get it. So right now we would duplicate our efforts and sell it like that. But if she was, I like this. Some people think it's not cool. I think it's awesome. She should be a shovel seller. If she built a dog treat business that started printing money, she should get on a webinar and teach other kids her age how to start a dog treat business in their location to also print money. And she can give them the done for you labels. She can give them the packaging. She can give them the recipe. She can give them the sales pitches. Because I gave her a close that is so hot. I'm like more proud of this close than 99% of the webinar closes that I teach. And it goes like this. Dog comes up. She gives a free sample to the dog. The dog eats it. I tell her to say the following. Say to the people, go, man, your dog really loves these treats. You should buy 15 bags of them, right? Okay, so this is called an anchor. So she sets a high anchor. This is a good technique. And then inevitably they laugh. Humor is good and sells. And they say, well, I can't buy that many. Then she holds up 2 bags and she goes, well, you should buy 2 or 3 bags instead then, right? 2 or 3 bags. And now the average order size goes up from 1 bag to 2 bags. We have doubled the profitability from the same audience with a better messaging, right? So if she were to create the dog treat kit for kids and sell that, she could include techniques like that, scripts like that, and now she could sell a business in a box, essentially. That's what she should sell on a webinar.
One of my first businesses, have you heard of a sugar glider before? Like flying?
Yes.
Okay. So one of my first businesses was selling those.
Nice.
And I'd go to state fairs and trade shows, and we would educate people on them. We had a pitch, and then we'd give them a brochure and say, hey, go walk around, think about it, come back when you're ready.
Nice, the puppy dog close.
And then as soon as they come back, the answer is, hey, you're back. So you're going to get 1 or 2.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah. Yep. And so for us, that's the immediate next question. They didn't know you could get 2. So how much for the second? And then why don't you come on back here? Let's fill your paperwork out. So I love that you inspired that with her.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's good. Yeah.
Real quick, MVP on the webinar. So like if you're sitting down with someone, maybe they're a friend that's in some other industry, they're like, hey, I want to test out this webinar. What's like the on coffee, you're going to tell them, hey, just put this together and it should be 80% there.
Yeah, you go out and you say, listen, I have a product I want to sell you at the end of this webinar. If you're looking to do X, Y, and Z and you want to invest money and not just time, I'm going to show that to you. If you can only invest time, then I'm going to show you how to do it manually so you don't have to pay anything other than effort and time. This is what I'll teach you today, and then you can decide at the end whether you want to only invest time and effort or if you'd like to shortcut some of that effort and time with some money. Is that okay with you? So that's the framework. And then you show them the manual process of how they would do it on their own. And then you transition to, now you've seen how to do it. If you want to do it for free, all by yourself, here's how we can do it together. If you're willing to invest in it, here's the resources I have for you. And here's how I can support you on your path to success. And then you lay out, here's what you get. Here's the investment to get it. Here are the bonuses that you'll get if you sign up before the end of the webinar. And then let's have a discussion to see if you should sign up or not. And there's your bare bones MVP version of the webinar. Yeah.
How do you prevent that manual process from being overwhelming and people zoning out?
You can just straight up tell them, hey, listen, this is going to be overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of moving parts here. This is why a lot of people decide it's better to spend money to remove some of this complexity, but I want to serve you as best as possible. So I'm not going to hide the difficulties involved, and I'm not going to water this down, because if you do want to do this on your own, I got to give you the reality of it. So if you preface something, it's amazing what somebody will go through. But if you just start vomiting on them, naturally they're going to be frustrated. So you just have to anticipate it and disclose it in advance.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about platform sellers. What is the main difference between pitching in person and pitching on a webinar?
I love pitching in person. I do it for $50,000 a day for a client. So if a client wants me to come pitch in person, if they want me there the day of and I can fly in and out that day, it's 50 G's. If I have to fly in the day before and fly out, it's 100K. It's 50K for the day for me to travel. I keep it simple now because I'm focusing on social. So like I'll do these one-offs for clients as it makes sense. And I love pitching from the stage even more than I love pitching off a slide deck.
And the difference on how you pitch is at all different, or it's the same pitch?
It seems similar, but it is very subtle in its differences, yet the differences are very different. On a webinar, it's a 2D space. In person, it's a 3D space. So I'll give you one example of how I pitch in person that doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference, but it is that big a difference. If I want to buy online, I click a button. If I want to buy in person, I have to stand up and walk to the back of the room. That's a lot. So one of the ways that we counteract that is we do a close. One of my favorite closes on stage goes like this. Who here has been carrying this problem around for at least 6 months knowing you should solve it but haven't solved it yet? Stand up. And then everybody stands up. Then I say, only stay standing if you've been carrying this problem around for 12 months or more, knowing you should solve it but haven't solved it yet. Otherwise, sit down. Some people sit down, but the rest stay standing. Okay. Now, I've eliminated a step to go to the back of the room because now you're already standing on your feet. You're not sitting down anymore. That seems like it doesn't matter. It matters a lot because it's harder to stand up and then walk to the back of the room than it is to just turn and walk to the back of the room, right?
Or trample everyone on the way back.
Or trample everyone on the way back, right? Even better, I've now demonstrated social proof. You're looking around at everybody else standing up. First of all, you're not alone anymore. Second of all, if there may be scarcity involved, which there always is, then they can start to see, I better hurry, because I might not get it, because somebody else might get it before me. These are things you can't do on a webinar. And then one of my favorite closes is the penthouse close. I say, the thing I hate about, selling things on stage at seminars, I just say it. Why not? Why hide it, right? Is you have to wait till you get home before you start getting the benefit from what you purchase. I don't want that. The first thing that you're going to get benefit from starts tonight in the penthouse. We bought the penthouse suite. We've done this in the Venetian in Vegas, for example. Grand piano, baller view, like amazing. We're gonna start the training tonight in the penthouse. We're gonna do two things in the penthouse. We're gonna celebrate the decision you made with champagne and food to lock in the value, and we're gonna start the training tonight in the penthouse. But the penthouse only holds 75 people, which it does. And so not only can we do the urgency of standing up, the scarcity, all that other stuff, but we can do a penthouse close. I can't do a penthouse close on the webinar. It just doesn't work the same. There's other techniques I can do. So what we do in any situation is we say, what is the leverageable opportunities in this situation? What can we do uniquely with this media we can't do anywhere else? And here's the map. Here's the 6 elements of persuasion. How do we apply these 6 elements of persuasion in person, and how does this differ from this 2 webinars? And this is what I do for clients in these situations. The 6 elements are Cialdini's, in persuasion, he has the map. He added a 7th one now, but essentially you have the 6. I use that map and then I apply it. I read the map in the room differently than I read it on a webinar.
So anyone who wants you to speak and close per room, $50K is what you charge them?
So $5K an hour for consulting, $10K an hour if I'm pitching for them, like on a webinar, like if they want me to come in and close for them. And then $50K if I have to travel and do it in person, whether it's in a room, live, or like with Iman, I fly to Dubai, and then I pitch still on a webinar, but on site in location with him and his team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to learn to sell from stage and they're not yet ready to invest $50K, starting with Robert Cialdini's Persuasion.
Get
books.
my book for $10 on Kindle on Amazon. It's called One to Many. It is the Bible of webinars, and I give all the secrets away for $10 or $20 if you want to get crazy and buy the paperback.
Which one makes more margin?
I have no idea. I don't even know how to log in. I have Kindle like earnings that I don't even know how to get access to.
If anyone's listening and heard this, DM me on Instagram and then I'll buy you a copy of his book.
Hell yeah. And I mean, we have YouTube videos where I also give away all the secrets on webinars. They're just not as detailed.
Okay, dude, I'm terrified about AI. I make a living from providing marketing services.
Yeah.
And I've stayed on the front end. Like I have a lot of stuff AI.
Yeah.
Number one, I want you to gaslight me and tell me I'm going to be okay. And number two, I want to actually like, what do we actually do? You're using a lot of it right now, but like, how do people in that similar shoes?
Yeah.
What do you see going?
So whenever there is massive disruption and change, there is newfound opportunity that's never existed before, always 100% of the time. And so if I have enough confidence that if I play the game right, I can uncover that opportunity, then I am delighted and gleeful on what AI presents to us. And I believe that's the case. I think we now have more untapped opportunity where ingenuity will be rewarded more than capital, more than people, more than effort, more than time. The person who can use brain most effectively right now will have the highest upside they've ever seen. AI has leveled the playing field in a lot of ways that used to be limited, but the difficulties now are more creative than in other aspects of business. Like, think about it. Like in the past, if I was going to start like a heavy machinery company, I would need a lot of money just to launch the thing. Or even a restaurant, I'd need a lot of money. Even if I was going to start an education business and I had to go print them on the cassette tapes and put them in the folders and then ship them out, like the barrier to entry on that was very high from a cost perspective. And also, think about it, even like print media, when you used to print newspapers and distribute them, you needed a lot of people and you need a lot of money. Now you can post, I can go out with my wife, have a dinner, set up the DJI Osmosis 3, 5 minutes, have a conversation, we record at dinner, and it reaches 1.5 million people. I can have dinner with 1.5 million people. That's insane, right? So the opportunity is different. I have to learn how to communicate in a way that's differently. I have to find the right setting in order to do that. I have to find the right equipment, which is a $600 DJI. It's not that much. The ingenuity is rewarded. So we have to become more ingenious in our approach. So that is there in AI, as it's always been in any disruption, and I believe it's there to a greater degree. But if you don't embrace it, and if you don't solve for it, then it could harm you more than anything in history has ever harmed anybody before, because its potential to displace more people is greater than any technology we've ever seen. And so the attitude is it's not good or bad, it just is. It's that story of, guy and his son plowing the field, son falls off the horse, breaks his leg, now they're going to starve to death. And the father says, it depends. Next day, the army comes, says, hey, we're taking all the fit bodies to go to war that are these kids that are 18, 20 years old. Oh, your kid's broken. He stays on the farm. And they go, good. And the farmer says, it depends. And you can never know if the situation is good or bad. It just is what it is. So I don't know to what degree AI will disrupt. I don't know to what degree it has the upside. I am confident enough in my ability that I can find the upside. And so I just go and look for it. And I know you are too. So AI is, I think, for people like you and me, it might be bumpy around the way, might give us existential crises every so often, and it will probably give us more value than we've ever seen in our entire lives. So that's the first part of it. The second part of how I'm playing with it right now, same way I do everything. We remove all the risk. So I can only see an upside with it, but there's not a big downside. So I'm not starting a new company and spending $1 million on developing AI technology. I have friends that did that. They're like, I'm going to build this thing that hooks into AI, and then ChatGPT changes next week and they don't have anything useful, right? I'm not doing that. I'm not spending a lot of personal time solving all the different cool things, the distractions of AI. You want to talk about bright, shiny object? Never has there been brighter objects that shine more than ever, and there's never been more objects in the history of business than right now with AI. And so I pay Moldavians $20 an hour to figure these problems out for me, right? These guys love to get into the weeds. So here you go crazy, right? You spend a whole day on that, I'm out $200, right? Like, report the findings to me and I will distill the findings. So this is how we're playing with AI. I'm also going incredibly granular with it. And this is how I've solved everything really in business, is I get very narrow in scope and get excellent at a very small thing, and that becomes a brick. And then I get excellent at another thing, and that becomes the second brick. And pretty soon I build a mansion bigger than anyone you've ever seen with small bricks initially. So I'm not asking the AI to write a whole book for me. I'm asking the AI to write a 150-word reel for me on Instagram. Not any reel, a very specific type of reel that I still have to write the hook for and still have to feed it the guts for and train a prompt that takes me 6 hours to develop just to create one very specific type of script on Instagram. Okay, that's how I play, because the cost to do that is minimal and the potential upside is huge. And then if I get that one brick right, then I can add something in front of it, add something behind it, and now we become dangerous. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So we're going very slow but smoothly right now so we can go fast in the future.
The tactics you just gave are awesome. The metaphors involved with it is significantly better.
Nice.
I would love to listen to that. I'm going to listen to that, what you just described, but it ties back to what we tie meaning to and how we see the reality, the world creates the reality.
Yeah, true.
So thank you, man. Anything else you want to share or talk about?
No, if you open this world up and you are grateful for everything in it, that will ultimately give you more success than any other area of your life. I was we were in Tahoe the other day. We took a little vacation and I'm writing the book, Use Brain, which hopefully will be out this year. So I would work on the outline for an hour and a half, then I'd go for a half an hour walk. Then I'd come back, work on it for an hour and a half, go for a half an hour walk. And when I was walking out there in between these outline sessions, I just got this feeling of overwhelming gratitude. I'm like, we live in the most wondrous time in history. I really started to think about it because of some of the stuff that AI can do. Like, I was so just overwhelmed with gratitude for the opportunity to have an exploration on where's this going to take me? And I'm like, I got to keep that feeling as front and center as much as possible. Because when I operate in that frequency, that's when I'm at my best. And I don't think it's just a Fladlien thing. I think it is a universal thing. If we can tap into all of the greatness that's around us and just bask in it, I think from us comes more greatness. And that's what I would love to leave everyone with.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.